Hey everyone, welcome back to Ontario Gardening. So today we are discussing eggshells, crushing them and putting them in your garden. Does it work? Is it true? Is it a myth? And I'm here to quickly answer and say it is true. So these little bad boys are going to act in your garden as a calcium supplement, which is really good for your nightshade plants, so things like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants. They also are really good for your leafy greens like spinaches, brassicas, like your cauliflower and your broccoli. And they're going to really help feed those plants. So the one thing to note about them is that they are like an acid neutralizer. So similar to a TUM, which would be like calcium, you are putting them into lessen the acidity of your soil. So you're not going to want to put those on things like blueberry bushes, and there's a lot of flowers that don't necessarily like a lot of calcium. So just make sure to research before you put on your plants to make sure that you're not going to go and mess up the soil. Because if you crush a whole bunch of these and put them on blueberries and neutralize your soil, where blueberries like love acidity, it might not be a good time. The other thing to know is the way that you actually apply the eggshells. So most people think to just crush them and put them on, and that is totally okay. Very similar to when you would put this in your compost bin, eventually these little pieces will break down. And this is a perfect way, just crushing them like this is a perfect way to deter bugs, because these little pieces are nice and sharp, and they are going to deter the bugs from crawling around because they hit the side of the shell and it like pokes them and scares them away. So that's one really good way, and eventually this will compost down. It's just going to be like a slow release, and it's going to take a while because it has to work into that soil. Whereas if you take these and you crush them down into a fine powder, so similar to like flour, so you can use like a mortar and pestle if you have one, or a food processor, blender, that works well too. Making it into a powder and then applying it, it's going to absorb into the soil so much better. So the other thing to know about putting calcium, there is other ways. Eggshells, we're just talking about this right now because it's a super easy way. You're going to save them throughout the years, which I did in this bowl here, as you've seen. And you don't have to wash them. You can if you want. But you don't have to wash them or anything. You just literally use your egg. So like I've had my egg here. This one I think was actually a duck egg. You have your egg, you cracked my egg out of it. I literally just took this, threw it into the bowl, and I let it dry. Once it's dry, you can move from there. But the one thing that to know is with calcium, and this is any calcium, because you can use eggs, you could use a TUM, you could buy, which I have this in my garden shed from the past. It is a calcium, it's probably backwards for you, but it's just a calcium. You can see at the top here, it's just straight calcium. You can have it in liquid form. See, it has like the peppers and the tomatoes and stuff on the front. So you can do it that way. There's many different forms you can do it, but if you do too much, so the recommendations would be on the back of your product that you actually buy, but every 2 to 3 weeks is good enough, because if you do too much, calcium will actually hinder any other nutrients from getting up into those roots. So you do not want to overshell. So just like a crushed handful, maybe I would say 3 eggs per plant, crush them around or put them into the powder and sprinkle it around. Just don't go too super heavy, and don't feed it. Like, you don't need to feed it every couple days. That's too much. So just make sure you're doing that. The only other thing to note is the proper time to apply calcium. I mean, essentially you can do it at any time, but calcium is really going to help with the flowering stage. So once everything starts flowering, that's when you want to start applying those eggshells. So now's a perfect time in my area, Southern Ontario. It's a lot, I think, for others. So we've got our tomatoes are out there flowering, our peppers are flowering. So now is that perfect time to apply. So all in all, short answer, yes, save your eggshells throughout the year. And they're great. They're great for flowers too, but like I said, just make sure you're doing that Google research prior to putting on, just to make sure that you're not going to de-acidify your soil and then possibly have wilt or damage to your plants. So I hope that answers any questions about these eggshells. Any other comments or questions, feel free to drop them below, and we will talk to you soon.